Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you are watching this. Welcome back again to the Since I Was Young podcast for all things Heart of Midlothian. We do hope you're all well. Joining you as always is myself, Ewan Ramsey, and my co-host Alan Scrimger. Alan, how are you doing, good sir? You well?
Yeah, mate, I'm good. I'm good today. The results over the weekend seem to have gone in our favour, which is quite nice.
Timely apt, sir, timely apt. And as we are recording this as well, was it our I was a better halves on the green side of Edinburgh, lost to Rangers as well, so that was absolutely fantastic to top off the weekend, as you said, Alan. And obviously as well, it was a massive game at the weekend there, as we came away with a massive result to beat Aberdeen at home, 2 goals to 1. So obviously we'll talk a bit more about that as the episode goes on. And we'll have a look at the full-time thoughts as well from both myself and Alan, and also our was it interim the coach Stephen Naismith as well. And we'll also look ahead to the final 2 games of the season. Again, we've said this many a week, 2 massive games ahead, 2 massive games, which will of course be Rangers away on Wednesday, and to top off the season as well with a massive clash of the last Edinburgh derby of the season as well. So we'll look ahead to that, and we do hope you enjoyed this episode as well. And as always, guys, if you aren't subscribed to the Since I Was Young podcast as of yet, please think about subscribing. And if you want to check us out on our socials as well, please feel free to do so. They will be on screen and in the description as well. So, Alan, as we said at the start as well, and the last week, and quite a few weeks before, it was a massive game. It was a massive game at the weekend there. You were feeling pretty confident, like before the game itself. When we did the last episode, I was kind of on the fence. I genuinely didn't know how it was going to go. Like, in all honesty, I genuinely thought it was going to be I think I said a 1-1 draw. It kind of had that vibe to it. But I believe your score prediction was right.
It was. It
It
was. The
was,
game
I.
went exactly how I thought it would.
And it's probably the first time we've actually been right about anything all year. So as always, we'll take a look at the starting lineups as always, and in no particular order for Hearts. We had the Clark in goal. We had Haring, Shankland, Atkinson, Devlin, Rose, Mackay, Cochrane, Sibic, Janelli, and our Japanese superstar Oda. Um, Obviously, as you mentioned, was it to me, Alan? Just before the game started as well. Aberdeen were also was missing some key players in Duke McCrory, aye, and Chinny as well. Did that in any way kind of make you feel a bit more? Was it confident, or were you always confident from the start that we were going to come away with all 3 points?
Was probably as confident as I would like to admit, because Aberdeen's record at Tynecastle isn't very good. Our record at home is better than our record away from home. But yeah, like the 3 players that Aberdeen were missing, in particular Duke, obviously, like he's been a big part of their
Mm.
forward line this season. So him being out was a big thing. McCrory, I don't know whether McCrory was out because of a pending potential transfer or if he was injured, because I think
All
he's
right.
on the brink of moving down south somewhere, Bristol City, I think. But I don't
Oh,
know if that was to do with why he wasn't picked or if he was just genuinely injured. And obviously
fantastic move.
Shinnie, I think was and Shinnie's still serving that ban as far as I know,
Mm.
that he got from before. But yeah, I was, as I say, I was confident because obviously the last time Aberdeen came to Tynecastle, we absolutely battered them without playing particularly well.
Mm.
So
Very
yeah,
true.
obviously that was under a different manager for them, but I certainly felt confident that we could get a result.
And so you were right, sir. So you were right. But if we're going to be honest, throughout the first half, I thought it. I wouldn't go as far as to say it was kind of touch and go, but would you agree that Aberdeen arguably started the better team? Was it of the first half, or
Yeah, I think so. In
yeah?
the first 10, 15 minutes. Like we were talking about, before last week's episode, we're talking about, and I put it in the program as well, saying, we need to have a fast start, we need to get at them. And
Hmm.
we didn't really have much of a chance to do that because Aberdeen kind of pressed us quite high up the pitch, kind of stopped us from playing. And their big striker, is it Majowski? They played Majowski and Marley Watkins up front. I think it was the two of them, and they were a physical handful for
Mm.
boys, effort boys, for Rolls and Civic.
Oh, come the day, come
Getting,
the day.
I
Bring
wish,
back
mate.
the
I wish
man.
I've got them on the brain, mate. But nah, their forwards were a handful for us for the first sort of 15, 20 minutes. But yeah, it was they kind of we sort of grew into the game as it went on. The only kind of thing of note that kind of happened before the other thing of note that I was really, really impressed with was Oda
Mm.
absolutely skinning Johnny Hayes multiple times. And I think Hayes ended up getting booked in the first 10, 15 minutes because he just took Oda down because he just couldn't beat him. So he just wiped them out. But yeah, for a bit, it's just a bit like, this guy's made progress. Like this fullback's got a booking, keep giving him the ball. And, Hayes could have been off, to be quite honest with you. But then we had the decision that Barry Robson was demanding a penalty and was not happy with VAR for not giving his side a decision was a penalty claim, which was not a penalty in a million years. The Aberdeen player, I think it was Marley Watkins again. He's a little shit. Um, he was tangling with Haring and he pushed Haring over, realised that he's just pushed Haring over, and
Yeah.
then just fell down. It was yeah, and as I say, Barry Robson after the game was adamant it was a penalty, but nobody else in the stadium, and remarkably, not even VAR thought it was a penalty either, which was probably the biggest surprise for me.
Well, exactly. I mean, like, if you're going to get the decision by, let's just put it down to tripping over with somebody's feet, we'd be seeing was a penalties every single week, Alan.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah,
it and it's interesting you've mentioned Oda as well. Like, I think it's great that he's like managed to kind of was to keep his place in the team for the past like sort of it was a few weeks as well. And as you was I said as well, like, as each game goes on, like he gets a bit more was it comfortable, compact, was it confident as well, which is great to see. And I think like a few times throughout the was it season as well. Like when he came in, I think he's going to be a lot more of a key player next year as well. Like, so to get that the kind of insight to what he's like just now, I think is absolutely great. But
yeah.
to ask a question, I mean, why do you think Naismith for the moment has got a lot more faith in Oda as like opposed to Cool, because obviously, like, throughout this like sort of year, it's not particularly worked for him. In a few games we've seen him in, granted, he has shown uh with uh with the glimpses of what he can do, but from your personal opinion, why do you think he's kind of swayed more to to Oda than Cool? Besides the fact that, like, was it Cool's only was it like a lone player?
I think that's pretty much it. To be honest
All
with you,
right,
I
all right,
don't,
okay.
I don't.
Move on.
No, I mean, listen. I'm not doubting Cool's ability. I don't doubt it. I think there's definitely something there, but Oda's ours,
Mm,
and it makes more sense to play Oda as much as I'm sure Cool might be doing everything in training to play. Naismith is obviously looking at it going, well, I'd rather develop a player that's going to be here next year in the shape of Oda rather than Cool, who'll probably be, I don't know, in English mid-league obscurity after being loaned out by Newcastle again, no doubt.
mm,
But yeah, I think Oda, just to kind of touch on him again, like somebody mentioned as well, the difference in sort of the profiles of the two players. Like Cool's quite a small guy, and doesn't really look all that built. Oda, okay, he's not like a tank, but Oda's a big guy. Like you can see he's got a frame about him, and he's not, put it this way, Oda's less likely to get blown over by a gust of wind than Garang Cool.
Goodness.
But I liked Oda like through the whole game, and I know I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself, but the whole game, like when he lost possession, he was putting a foot in, trying to win it back, and he wasn't shying away from that physical side of things, which
Mm,
I think is something that is very impressive as well. I think, yeah, listen, like we've seen, and I said this was a couple of weeks ago. I think we've seen players come over from the J League and play for Celtic and look very technically sound and very good. Oda seems to be cut from a similar kind of cloth to that. I'm not saying that he's going to be as good as the Celtic contingent because if he was, he'd be at Celtic.
no doubt.
But yeah, he's definitely got something about him. And what I liked in the game against Aberdeen was he was shooting a lot more. So he's obviously taken on board what he's being told. You know, Naismith has already said, I've told him to shoot earlier. I've told him to just keep shooting. And he had a couple of opportunities. He had one where he was coming in on the angle and Gino was open in front of goal. And the obvious thing to do was to pass it to Gino to tap into an empty net. But Oda had a shot. And I'm like, okay, it was saved, but it's nice to see him having a shot. I mean, Gino was
Aye.
raging, but I'm not going to blame Oda for that. I still, and I was saying this to people earlier on. I think Oda's going to get the winner in the derby. You can put your money on it. I think
So
Oda's getting the winner.
counting on that. Still
Oh,
counting on that, boy. Love to hear it.
oh,
Love to hear it. Well,
oh God,
good to say as well. Was it 27 shots that we had all game? I think only about maybe 7 or 8 were actually on target. So maybe like a wee bit more was a practice and was slowly get there. But despite the amount of shots we actually had, it was obviously Aberdeen that opened up the scoring. Pollock, I believe it was. Um, I mean, not to say it was a nasty, but the Clark's fault, you think?
yeah, yeah. I like the fact he's come out and tried to get something on it. I like
Aye.
the fact he's tried to take some sort of authority and win the ball, but completely missed it.
Mm.
And Pollock didn't even have to jump to win the header. But Civic just kind of let him win it. So yeah, it was frustrating, but we've been conceding set pieces all season, so
Aye, for sure.
it was only natural that that was going to happen.
Of course, of course. But as you did mention as well, so even after the goal from Aberdeen, like, we still kind of kept our it was a posure as well. Step kept like sort of was playing the same way like as it was the Naismith. Well, once like actually it was a play be on the front foot, and as it went on as well, um it was a moment you could not make up. So obviously for those that not were at the game as well, was that there was a tremendous applause for a Hearts fan that passed not too long ago. I believe it was on the 8th of May. Was it David Stewart, who died at the very sad age of was of a 42. Huge Hearts fan from what I hear, and to mark that, like, was it as like I said, you could not write it not just to score a goal during the actual like applause itself, but as sweet as a top bins as I've ever seen this year from our out of contract at the end of the season, Gino Allen. Again, like was a kind of speechless the other week for the VAR decision. I don't think there's much you can say was on that goal. Sweet, isn't that? Yeah.
Oh, phenomenal,
Mm.
absolutely phenomenal. And it's funny, obviously, you talk about like the minutes applause and stuff, and I've often kind of when I've been at games where there've been minutes applause, I've often kind of thought, how amazing would it be if you could score a goal in
Oh.
that time, in that minute? Just because, obviously, I'm sure, David's family and friends were probably there and there was a banner in section N for him and
Yeah.
all that. So obviously a very well liked and well known Hearts fan that travelled home and away. So a tragic loss. But as I say, for not just for a goal to be scored during that
Mm.
minute's applause, but that kind of goal.
Oh,
And
ridiculous,
I put it on
ridiculous.
Twitter, and if you haven't watched it, I think you absolutely should. Is the Hearts TV commentary of that goal, because Laurie, as he always does, seems to add something to that moment because they had the picture of David up on the screen with a
Yeah.
message, about his family and all that. So it was a really really touching moment. And listen, back to the goal itself, it was absolutely phenomenal.
Mm.
The strike was top bins, as you say, it was just ridiculous. But the work before it was actually
Yeah.
something that Naismith mentioned as well, was Cochrane and Barry Mackay combining well and finding Gino with the ball. And yeah, he just looks up and just hits an absolute raker. It's funny, and again, people that have watched it will know what I'm going to say. Sports scene commentary, the ball hits the back of the net, and the sports scene commentator says, "Goal of the season contender." And I'm thinking, it would have been if the goal of the season wasn't awarded last week.
Yeah.
Like,
Tit.
anyway, that's by the by. But yeah, it was an unbelievable goal. I have to say, even prior to that, the Aberdeen goalkeeper, Keller Roos, was making some very good saves. So it was kind of getting to that point where it was like, it's going to take a very good goal to beat this goalkeeper today, despite the number of shots that we were having.
And there
But
you go.
yeah, Gino just he pulled it out of the bag, didn't he? Surely he's got to stay. Surely the club should just be saying, what numbers do you want? Just make it happen. Like, I was reading today, and sorry to
No,
interrupt you
no, no.
before you've started. I was reading something today, and you probably saw it yourself. It was the partnership of Shankland and Gino have now got
Mm.
40 goals between them, which is the second most of a Hearts pairing in the last 40 years, I think it was. I think the top one was 47 with Robertson and Cahoon potentially.
What a shock.
So it just shows you how influential Shankland and Gino's contributions have been, and where would we be without them?
Han-
We spoke about Gino last week, and I kind of said replacing him would be the biggest concern that I would have,
mm.
more so than
Sure.
letting him walk for free. Both of those things would be absolutely heartbreaking, but I don't know how you can replace Gino at this moment, to be quite honest.
You're absolutely right, mate. I mean, I'm not saying like I'm not saying that he's a one of like a kind was like was it a player, but how to put this into was it into like a sentence? Like for us, he's a very unique player in the way that we want to play because, like as you said, both like the partnership with both was a like in Shankland, like with Shankland being a bit more in that number 10 role, kind of allows what was a to almost a kind of free roam as such to actually like let was it Shanks in as well. Um, so yeah, like I think in that sense, there's nobody in our a kind of team just now or like in our like sort of budget where like sort of I can think, oh yeah, was it he would be a great replacement. So do you think it will actually get signed though? And do you think with that goal that he scored, like it kind of puts a statement from him and maybe like effectively more added sort of like like pressure might be the wrong word, but more of a statement was it as I said to kind of get the club to give what he actually wants like in terms of a contract.
Yeah, 100%. I
Mm.
think every week that goes by, every game that he plays, he's doing something. And obviously, he had a big part to play in the St Mirren comeback,
Mm.
scoring and winning a penalty. And then today, he scored the goal against Aberdeen yesterday. um, that put us back in the game. He's doing what he needs to do, and I hope, I hope that he signs a new contract. I think it's a no-brainer, as I say, and I think there's quite a few players that are out of contract at the end of the season, and I think the two that stand out for me are players that need to be kept is Gino and Haring. I think you know I've said it before about Haring. I didn't know if he was long term the answer, and I still don't know if he is. But the last few games under Naismith, he's certainly getting back to that Peter
Mm.
Haring that we love. I mean, I've loved Peter Haring since day one, but he blows hot and cold sometimes, as does Gino, to be fair.
Mhm.
But he's in form. He's doing all the right things. He's scoring goals. He's assisting goals. He's being a nuisance, and that's what you need. And like I say, my biggest concern would be replacing him. And I know I said it already, but as good a transfer negotiator as Joe Savage may or may not be, he'd have to pull a pretty big one out to get somebody as good as Gino.
100%. And just before we kind of move on into the second half, I read something earlier on that I didn't know was like a 100% accurate. So, do Hearts as a club have the option to trigger an extra year for Haring, or have we just got to like was it all for him a new contract? Because I didn't know how well like accurate that actually was.
Don't know. I really don't know. I think there is, because I heard that there's talks of like we have an option to trigger an extra year. I
Right,
don't know if it's like appearance based, because that's what like Michael
right.
Smith's been on recently in terms of number of games,
Mm,
trigger an extension, etc. So I don't know if that's maybe the setup with Haring,
mm.
or but either way, those two for me are certainly two players that would have to be kept for next season. Like they make us a better side when they're in it.
100%, Alan. Could not agree more. Well, as we got into the second half, as we was it said, was it like a goal just before half time? Always a great time to get back in to the game, and I think we can both agree that the biggest moment of the second half was the second goal. Man, he's making 30. Get off of that fucking fence, sir. 2 games left, 3 goals to get it. Come on. You must be shiting yourself.
Oh well, I'll do you know what, right? See if listen, I'll forgive him if he scores a hat trick against Hibs at Tiny. I'll
I
forgive him.
forgive
That would
him.
hit 30. I'd be happy with that. But yeah, like even talking about the goal itself, I mean, the second half wasn't as eventful as the first half was. We just kind of controlled it quite well.
Mm,
But the second goal, the Shanklin goal, again, it was Barry Mackay and Alex Cochrane down the left wing. Nobody seems to be talking about Barry Mackay, but I'll probably mention him when we're summing up in general.
aye.
The two of them worked very well down the left hand side. Alex Cochrane plays a first time cross, and Shankland is, you know, as onside as you'll possibly be. He was so close to being off, but he was just inches onside.
Mm.
And what a finish it was as well.
It
What a
was.
finish. Near post. Goalkeeper's not getting anywhere near it, and he wasn't going to anyway.
And
It's just
sorry. Sorry, go on.
no, no. I was just going to say that one of the most impressive things about Shankland for me is the variety of the goals that he scores. Like we talk about him being that number 10 and being behind Gino and all the rest of it. But Shankland, despite what people suggest him being a penalty merchant, he scores all types of goals. And he was
Oh,
just
aye.
that was a typical number 9 in the right place at the right time, and a bloody good finish as well.
Unbelievable. And I'm going to add a bit of a, was it like of a funny stat as well? I don't know, was it if you saw it? So like, was it, I was going through it, was it after work? And on Twitter, was it at Super Joe, was a savage? Brilliant, was a stat here. So Shankland has now scored 27 goals and apparently couldn't cut it in the big league. Hibs' entire strike force, which consists of McCurdy, Nesbitt, Johan or Johan Hope. I'm not even again trying. Was it say their
Ah,
name?
the big Ukrainian boy.
With a Kukyark. There you go. And
Aye.
Tavares. Right. So that's 6 of them. Um, aye. Was it 6 of them have scored 24 goals between the 6 of them. And then
He's just
there's an accurate picture of the sink at a front door saying "Let that sink in." So aye, like I mean, again, like it just I mean, to be fair as well, it just goes to show some of the Hearts fans, us included as well, at the very start of the season, that
Yeah.
imagine if we didn't get him, and just you and me standing outside the main stand and don't waste your money. He's fucking pish. Go away. Like, imagine.
God, mate, honestly, it's quite amazing,
Mm,
for
100%.
his first season back in Scottish football, first season back in the Premiership, and he's not only obviously been made the captain during the season, but he's just carried it on.
Mm,
And yeah, like it's just ridiculous. And 27 goals is amazing for anybody. You could be sitting there talking about, a top striker for Celtic, a Kyogo, or a top striker for Rangers.
mm,
That hitting 27 goals for any of them would be impressive in itself.
mm.
But yeah, Shankland's just he's flying right now, and it's amazing to see. But like, obviously as the game went on, we made a few subs, as did Aberdeen, and it just kind of drifted. But we had a lot of chances today. Today, I keep saying today like it was
What's
today.
happening, sir?
We had a lot of chances. We had a lot of chances yesterday.
There you go, sir.
And yeah, it was like, as I say, Aberdeen didn't really impress me all that much, to be quite honest with you. They were constantly going long ball over the top, trying to get in behind our defenders, and they did it a couple of times, but Xander Clark didn't really have much to do, which was nice. But I'll kind of throw out some individual praise of some players that I wanted to highlight that I actually haven't mentioned yet, which is a massive surprise when I'm going to talk about the first player that I'm going to talk about,
Oh
because
God.
I'm genuinely surprised we've lasted this long and I haven't mentioned his name yet. A certain Australian right back, Nathaniel Atkinson.
I knew it was coming, mate. I knew it was coming.
Listen, listen, right? For me, and I am a massive Nathaniel Atkinson fan, as everybody that listens to this knows and talks to me on social medias knows. I love that boy, and I've hoped for a very long time that we get to see something out of him. He's very frustrating because defensively he's not fantastic, but
Mm,
I think there's a couple of things. The partnership with Oda on the right hand side has made them both so much better. They add a lot of drive, a lot of power, a lot of just directness on the right.
mm,
Yeah, he's still defensively suspect. He still has his moments. He had his moments against Aberdeen, but he just looks so much more confident now. And I don't know if it's something that Naismith has said, something Naismith has done, but it's nice to see him just enjoying himself. And you can see it. Like he was probably, I mean, I'm not going to give him man of the match as much as I'd love to, but it was certainly his best performance that I can remember.
mm.
And it's just really, really nice to see that from Natty Atkinson. Obviously, he might still go in the summer. Who knows? That there might still be some movement for him, but I hope not. I hope not. I really like the partnership that he has with Oda. And yeah, as I say, it's just nice to see him put in a good performance. And he didn't really have a lot to do defensively because Aberdeen just didn't really do very much. But yeah, he was all over the place, as was Alex Cochrane on the left hand side, who, in my opinion, and this, again, this might be a stretch, but I think he's the best left back in the country right now. I think Alex Cochrane is phenomenal.
That's
And
not a bad shout at all, mate. Not a bad shout at all.
we talk about like the summer and the rebuild and stuff like that. I will call it a success if Alex Cochrane is still a Hearts player at the start of next season,
Mm,
because there's got to be clubs in England that are looking at this guy. Like the way he played that game and the way he's played most of the season, even prior to Naismith coming in, he's first name on the team sheet for me, which is frustrating because he won't be on the team sheet for Wednesday night against Rangers due to his ban. But yeah, he was again outstanding, absolutely outstanding. And yeah, look, Aberdeen, for a game that meant so much in terms of third place, and if they'd won it, they would have secured third place. I wasn't impressed with Aberdeen at all. And I don't know if it's just because of how well we played that they just looked average. But yeah, we wanted it a lot more than they did. And that
yeah,
showed in the
rightly
end.
so. Right, rightly so, Alan. Well, As you said as well, like the second half kind of petered out. There was as we got the second goal as well. So there isn't really a lot to add to the it was the second half. But before we move on to um the last two games of the season as well, just to kind of just put it out there. It might be a bit was of the difficult was a question for you, sir, but I need an answer. Atkinson, is there a player in there?
There is, and Nazy thinks so as well. Stephen Naismith thinks so as well, and I'm fucking delighted about
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I said before, Alan as well. Huge week, massive week, biggest week of was it, of the clubs. Was it history? Arguably. As we said at the start, got Rangers on the Wednesday night away at Ibrox, and then to wrap off the season, the last Edinburgh derby of the year. Now, so many routes this week could take. Obviously, with the results as well, hopefully going our way throughout this next week. Third could be in anybody's hands. Even Hibs, if they win all their games and score a ridiculous like amount of goals, but it is still there. But for the last European spots to fall down to three teams in the space of a week, it's going to be as said by was it Naismith, an interesting week ahead. So just to go through the fixtures that are being played on Wednesday night. So obviously, as I just said, we are away to Rangers, and with Aberdeen at home to was a Mirren, and Hibs at home to Celtic. Now, the Hibs game, I'm not too particularly bothered about. I mean, I hope that kind of speaks for itself, but we shall see. And Aberdeen with probably like was it arguably the easiest was a fixture on the actual night, but we're hoping like I mean I don't know what you think, Alan, but if we if we can miraculously come away with a point, I know that seems such a lot to ask for, but if we manage to come away with a point at Ibrox, and if I mean again arguably as well, like if Aberdeen can be put down to just a point as well. I think when you kind of look at it in terms of a fixtures point of view for the a game against Hibs as well, because obviously they'll be at home to I believe it's no sorry away to
that. It's
Celtic.
away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, mate, you're absolutely right. With us being obviously being at home to Hibs as well. So if the results are kind, and I'm using that as strong as possible, if the results are kind to us, because obviously, like I've asked you quite a lot throughout the last few weeks, is third place, i.e., European football, still in a strong was a grasp? And I'll reiterate that is third place. Is it still there to was a to be had, Alan, given the fixtures that both us and Aberdeen have got?
I think so. I think so. I think like Naismith said it bang on when he said it sets up an interesting week, and he's
Mm,
right. Um yeah, like you say, like obviously St Mirren are away against Aberdeen on Wednesday.
mm,
And as much as Aberdeen will probably be favourites for that due to being at home, St Mirren are not a bad side. You
oh, no,
know,
no.
we saw it when we played them just last week, got a 2-2 draw, albeit that was in Paisley, but they went to Parkhead and got a draw,
Mm,
this weekend. So I know, okay, Celtic have maybe kind of, I'm not saying they've down tools, but, Celtic are just plodding along to the cup final now. So there's maybe an element of that. But St Mirren are not a bad team. They're in the top six for a reason. They deserve to be in the top six. So,
100%.
and they still potentially could get European football as well, because I think it's the top four or top five positions that get Europe. So it would be absolutely hilarious to see Hibs finish in sixth place and St Mirren to finish in fifth. But I don't know the points totals off the top of my head. I'm not 100% sure on. But yeah, St Mirren's season isn't totally finished either. So it's possible. It's possible. Obviously, for us to go to Ibrox and come away with anything is going to be difficult. Um, we've said it many, many times on this that our record in Glasgow is horrendous, be it Parkhead or Ibrox. It doesn't really matter. We tend to just absolutely shit it when we get along the motorway. Um, but Naismith comes across as if he's going to just keep doing what we're doing and keep trying to play how we're trying to play. And I'm not saying I want us to go to Ibrox and dominate possession and keep the ball in their half, because realistically, we're not going to be able to do that. But you just never know. You never know. And to be within 2 points of Aberdeen at this stage, when we were, however many points behind,
Mm.
having been many points ahead, um, we've chucked it away. If Aberdeen bottle it, it'll be absolutely hilarious, to tell you the truth. Do I see it happening? Don't think so. As much as I'd love it, as
Fucking
much as I'd love it,
hell.
and it's funny because if you'd asked me this a few hours ago, I would have said, "Fucking yeah, let's bring it on, have a go." But because Rangers don't have anything left to play for this season, their season's finished. But Beale said after their game against Hibs today, and that was actually today. I'm not making a mistake. That was today.
There you go.
um, he said that there'll be a few players that'll play on Wednesday night. It'll be their sort of last game, because obviously it's their last game at Ibrox. So it'll be a chance for them to say goodbye to the fans. So you'll probably see Ryan Kent, who's leaving, Morelos probably, who's leaving as well. So I think those that maybe thought Rangers might field a slightly lesser side might be a little bit disappointed, unfortunately.
So, have you got any hope? Just through all
I
that, have you
do.
got any hope?
Listen, of course, of course. Listen. If we go there and listen, you could literally replay any preview I've done for an Old Firm game this season. If we go away from home and have a go, put in a shift, that's all we can do. We're
Mm,
sitting here talking about fixtures of Aberdeen and all the rest of it. It doesn't mean anything if we don't get anything at Ibrox. So assuming Aberdeen beat St Mirren. But yeah, there's a little bit of hope, a little bit of hope. But I made peace with fourth place weeks ago. Obviously, would rather finish third, but fourth, considering the terrible run we went on towards the end of Robbie Nielsen's time, I'd take fourth at this point based off of that. The
fair
fact that
dues.
we're still in with a chance of third place with 2 games to go is quite something.
Absolutely, Alan. And so obviously this is all based on what what the results will be on the Wednesday night. So let's just say it goes. We manage somehow to take a point from Ibrox. Aberdeen managed to, was it only was it to take a point as well. So let's just say that actually happens. Um, what then? Coming to the final game, see Edinburgh Derby. Obviously, anything could happen throughout that as well. Obviously, I did it as a given as well, but who knows if Hibs takes something from that as well? Like, you know what I mean? So it could be
Yeah,
all to play for as well. What are your thoughts
yeah,
in general for the Edinburgh Derby? Because obviously that was Naismith's first a game in charge. He'll obviously want to prove a point as well to almost to rectify that was a loss as well. What are your thoughts? And at the end of it, can I get a prediction for both Rangers and Hibs, please, kind sir?
of course. Yeah, as ever, at Tynecastle, I don't worry about Hibs. I don't really worry about anyone at Tynecastle, to be quite honest with you. I've seen us absolutely batter Ross County by having multiple shots on target. I've seen us absolutely batter Aberdeen despite only winning 2-1, something we didn't mention previously. It could have been about 5 or 6 in that game if it wasn't for their goalkeeper and some very good defending. So, yeah, the Stephen Naismith style suits playing at Tynecastle, being on the front foot, getting the fans on side. That's, and people have said this to me before about, oh, how are you never nervous ahead of an Edinburgh derby? I don't get nervous, be it home or away. I don't get nervous, and it's not arrogance. It's not, thinking that we're going to win before the game's even started. I just don't get nervous about Hibs games. I don't know what it is. I just whatever
Aye,
will
no,
be will be, and I fully
absolutely.
expect us to beat them at Tynecastle. I think if it goes that way, and if there is still something to play for in that game, I back us. I'd back us anyway. I'd back us if we were
100%.
playing in my back garden. Like I don't. Hibs have improved a little bit in recent
Hmm.
weeks. I think that's clear. Lee Johnson's plan is there to see, and they've got some threats, but I think we have more. To be quite honest with you, and David Marshall is an absolute bomb scare of a goalkeeper. So yeah, listen, me saying that Oda's going to bag the winner is again not arrogance. It's just a feeling that I've
If
got.
you're right, if
Um,
you're right, fucking hell, I'm kind of like
it's
seriously.
it's a feeling I've got honestly, and I don't know where it's come from, but I just feel like the boy's going to get a goal before the end of the season, and it's going to be against Hibs. It's
Would love
got
to
to
see it.
be.
Would love to see it.
Prediction wise, I again I would love for the Edinburgh Derby to mean something in terms of finishing third potentially. Don't know whether it will. Based off of my predictions, it won't because annoyingly, I don't see us getting anything at Ibrox in midweek. As much as I'd love to be wrong on that, I've got a feeling that they're going to win by the same scoreline they beat Hibs by today. I think we're going to lose by 3 goals to 1, unfortunately. Again, would absolutely love to be wrong and hate that that's my prediction, but it just is. Edinburgh Derby, okay, we're gonna batter them. Call it 3-0. Call it 3-0. Shanklin
Again,
Shanklin double. Shanklin double and Oda to get one. So Shanklin finishes on 29.
you bastard. Fucking
Or maybe maybe
wait,
maybe
wait.
Shanklin scores the one against Rangers at Ibrox and then he gets two
That
against the road and there's his 30.
fair dues, fair dues, fair dues. Well, I'm gonna again. I'm gonna. I mean, I can totally share your point. Going to Ibrox. In my head, I don't think we're gonna get anything but just with what's at stake as well. I think it'll be interesting to see what a Naismith side would do. Um, like at Ibrox.
Yeah,
Obviously with him being a past fan of favourite as well, him knowing the club as well. It'll be interesting to actually see what he can do.
yeah.
So with that in mind, I'm actually going to go for a 1-1 draw. Again, I don't know why that scoreline is like kind of sticking out. I feel as if, again, I don't think it's down to how we play just now compared to what Robbie did. I just think, or I hope, because there's a lot at stake, and
Yeah.
I just feel as if that's going to be the main motivator to actually take. Was it something out? Was it of the game itself?
Yeah.
Um, for the Hibs game, much like yourself, like I don't particularly. I'm concerned about that regardless if there's something to play for or not. I think we're still going to get European football in some form. I don't think that's a factor. However, when it comes to third place again, as much as I'd like to have hope, it's a big ask, is what I kind of put it down to. But again,
Huge.
like you said, Alan, like anything can happen. But I'm going to go for the very, very mainstream answer of an Edinburgh derby. I'm going to go 2 goals, to 1. Any scoreline fucking involving the Edinburgh Derby just comes up every fucking year. And yeah, again as well, I'm going to be mean to myself as well. I think Shankland's going to get 2 goals throughout those two games, and it's going to be a fucking nerk in my spine, like honestly. But so yeah, I'm going to go with a 1-1 for the Rangers. You're going to go for 3-1. You're going to go for 3-0 against Hibs, and I'm going to go for 2-1 against Hibs. And for that being said as well, we would love to hear all your predictions for the last 2 games of the season. Do you think that Hearts should nail down with a Josh Benelli and Peter Haring? And do you think Shankland will get 30 goals? We would love to hear all your yeses. And with that being said, we have come to the end of the 82nd episode of the Since Abidjan was a podcast. So thank you for all for was it taking the time? Was it to watch? It's massively appreciated as well. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please think about subscribing. And if you want to get in contact with us via our socials as well, please check that out. And for all of those we're traveling through to Glasgow on the Wednesday, and for the last game of the season, which will be the Edinburgh Derby, we do hope you have an amazing time, and let's hope we have something to celebrate by the end of it. So from myself and Ali, y'all take care and see you next time. Bye for now.